So I was late to the party, but here it is, my 24-25 Premier League predictions. So firstly, I'm going to cover the Premier League table and how I think the Premier League is going to shape out the season. Then I'll also cover out a few special awards, a few niche awards which might not be actual awards, but regardless, we're going to cover things like Player of the Season, Young Player of the Season, and surprises of the season, surprise team, all that. And also I'm going to predict the winners of the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League, all based on guesses, all based on what has happened so far. So let's get started with positions 18, 19, 20, namely the relegation zone. So over here, I have Everton, Southampton, and Ipswich Town in the relegation spots. Why these three? Well, Ipswich Town, I did watch their game against Liverpool, and I'll be honest, I did like their pressing. They were high pressing against Liverpool and they were trying to take the game to Liverpool, right? I see that, especially since it was game one, the fans were behind them, it was at their home ground. But one thing that it did scream of, it screamed a lot of Leeds. It reminded me a lot of Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds team, how they were high pressing, they were very eager to get on the ball and transition very quickly. But when they got there, ultimately, they were not having that clinical edge, that cutting edge, which they need to score. So I would put Ipswich Town right at the bottom at 20th place. Now, Southampton, on the other hand, I just have a feeling, though they have a few players who have played in the Premier League with Southampton, they did get relegated once before, even with a man up against Newcastle. They still could not beat Newcastle. Now, while Newcastle's a very good team, it's particularly their patterns of play, I was not too convinced with them. And finally, in the 18th spot, we have Everton. Why Everton? Everton have been in the Premier League for so long. They always avoid relegation. But I just have a feeling this is that year. They lost Onana. And I'm not sure they can recover from that. Branthwaite might have his head turned by Manchester United and other teams. So it's going to be here and there. And I think even Sean Dyche, I know he's amazing at keeping teams up from relegation. But I think this is the year. This is finally the year where Everton do finally go down. Now let's cover 11 to 17. So over here, I have Brighton in 11th, Bournemouth in 12th, 13th is Fulham, 14th is Wolves, 15th is Leicester, 16th is Brentford, and Nottingham Forest in 17th. So pretty much Brentford and Nottingham Forest just escaping the drop. I feel they have what it takes. They do have some very good players, especially Nottingham Forest with Alanga. They have Murillo, they have Danilo, who was injured just the other day. Hope he recovers soon and all that. But I feel Nottingham Forest do ultimately have what it takes to stay up. Just about. And Brentford, obviously, Brentford have a very good manager in Thomas Frank. I really do rate Thomas Frank. And they obviously have Ivan Toney. We don't know where he's going to be at the end of the transfer window. Let's say Toney does stay, then I'm pretty sure that Brentford will stay in the Premier League. Even without Toney, they still have a very good team. They have Christopher Ayer, they have Mbuemo, they have Janel Flecken as well, their goalkeeper. And I really do rate that Brentford squad, especially after the game that United had at Brentford, where we drew 1-1, but they had almost 30 shots against us, which was an absolute drubbing. But we were lucky enough to escape with a point, and that gives me hope. And their general style, which is very similar to what I saw with Denmark in the Euros, I would say they have what it takes to survive. And Leicester, I feel, is an unknown quantity, especially since they've lost Enzo Maresca. We don't really know exactly how they are going to play. But however, I still do feel that they do stay up. And I know he's old, but regardless, you cannot rule a team out when they have Jamie Vardy. That guy, he's elite, Jamie Vardy. And they have their winger Fatawu as well. He played very well in the championship. I think they have just about what it takes to survive. And Wolves, on the other hand, Wolves is a 50-50, I feel if they are not careful, they could go down. But at the same time, they're a solid Premier League team. They have Joao Gomez. Now, they have lost Pedro Neto, which could be a big loss because Pedro Neto is an amazing player, which I will get to. Pedro Neto will be in this video later on, so stay tuned. And I feel Wolves do still have Premier League proven players. They have Ait Nouri, amazing player, Joao Gomez, and there are a few other players as well who are just amazing. And I feel, again, they have enough technical ability to get themselves out of sticky situations. Let's say they're playing one of the lower sides. Let's say they're playing Southampton or Ipswich. I feel they have what it takes to just survive, to get across the line in those certain games. And guess what? Even against a bigger team, let's say Man City, let's say Liverpool, even United, they can cause real problems. And in fact, they could even smack a few of these teams. Now, Fulham and Bournemouth, I feel they're solid teams, and especially Fulham with Emil Smith-Rowe and Bournemouth with Evan Nilsson. There's some amazing players that they bought. Now, I don't know whether they're going to actually succeed in the new clubs, obviously, because who knows anything, right? But Fulham with Emil Smith-Rowe, and, well, we don't know whether McTominay is going there or not, but they do have some amazing players, and so do Bournemouth, because they have Semenyo, they have Ouattara. There's some very good players. And I think they're going to be mid-table, and they're going to perform pretty well, especially against the bigger sides. I feel they're going to give United, they're going to give Liverpool, they're going to give City some big troubles. Now is the interesting part. Let's go to the top half of the Premier League table. Starting in 10th place, I have Crystal Palace, who under Oliver Glasner have been amazing, right? Last season, they were amazing. Towards the end of the season, with Olise, Eze and Mateta up front, they were amazing. And with the addition of Kamada from Frankfurt to replace Olise, I still think they have what it takes. And guess what? Do not forget, there's one other player who's been exceptional for Crystal Palace, Adam Wharton in midfield, who, by the way, I do think United might go after, and we might get him eventually. But he is an exceptional player, Adam Wharton. Especially towards the end of the season, you saw how good he was. He was good enough to even make the England squad. So he was very good. And if he does not leave, Mark Guehi at centre-back, probably England's best defender throughout the whole Euro tournament. You have to say, Crystal Palace are definitely going to be top half of the table. They are, again, going to give some big trouble to Tottenham, to Chelsea, maybe not City and Arsenal in particular, but at least United. All the teams below 4th place are going to have a very, very difficult time, whether it's at Selhurst Park or whether it's at home against Crystal Palace. Now, next up, West Ham. In 9th place is West Ham United. And let's be honest, West Ham have made some very good investments this summer with Fulkrug in, with Wan-Bissaka in. They are very good signings. They can transform the team, especially with the new manager, Julian Lopetegui. They are a very unknown quantity, to be honest, because they could either bang on a high level or they could just completely fall apart. Because let's be honest, they still have Kudus, amazing player. They have Bowen, an amazing player. They have Paqueta. We don't know for how long, but Paqueta is still there. Ward-Prowse can whip a free kick in, a set piece in. They have Edson Alvarez as well, amazing player. They recently bought Kilman as well. And you see this team shaping up. This team could be well above 9th as well. They could even potentially challenge for top 4. Now, of course, Wan-Bissaka at right back is going to be deadly for any big team thinking they're going to come to West Ham and win easily now. You have to watch for that. I know they lost against Villa, but trust me, some teams are going to have a really, really hard time at the London Stadium because they have Wan-Bissaka at right back. And then in 8th place, I feel this season is going to be Aston Villa. Now, I know Aston Villa went and bought Onana, and they generally do have a good recruitment strategy. And they qualified for Champions League last season as well. So why do I think there's going to be a drop-off? Well, firstly, because they are in that Champions League. That is something that they've never experienced before. So how are they going to manage with the expectations of the new Premier League? We're not too sure, are we? And that is why I think Villa will actually drop below where they are supposed to be. I feel they're supposed to be in the top 5, but they're not going to get top 5 because they're not that good. I feel they're going to get exposed, especially with the squad that they have. That squad was working when they had only Premier League, but with the Champions League in order as well, how are they going to deal with the new expectations that come along with it and with cups as well? And the whole hectic schedule that's coming up, we don't know how it's going to be. However, they have the next level of players. I would say if you were to take the players in the teams around them, they do have an amazing squad compared to most teams. Because even compared to Newcastle, I feel Villa have a better squad. Because you take Emi Martinez, arguably the best keeper in the Premier League. Top 3, I would say, easily. Then you have Konza, amazing defender. Pau Torres, amazing. Luca Digne, then Amadou Onana, Jacob Ramsey. You have Watkins, you have Bailey, you have Buendia. This team can really do some big things. It can do wonders. However, I personally don't think, with the Champions League involvement as well, I do not think they can hit that height anymore. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Number 7, I have Chelsea. Why Chelsea? With all the players, with all the investment that they have, why Chelsea at number 7? Well, simply put, I feel, Chelsea with all the players they have, just look at that attack for starters, right? They could potentially have an attack of Palmer on the right, Neto on the left, and Nkunku through the middle, and Osimhen as their number 9. Just imagine this front 4. They should probably be winning the Premier League with that. But let's be honest, they're not going to, are they? Because Chelsea have such a big squad that you think they should be winning way more. In fact, they have an overinflated squad. But there is something about Chelsea. This Chelsea team, as much as they scream harmony, they do not have any of it. As much as they want to be recognized, and especially with a new manager, Enzo Maresca, who apparently, from what I've heard about him from Leicester, is pretty good because he has his possession style and he might drill the players to exactly what they want. As good as all these players are, I don't think they can gel as well together. Now, this might be me coming back to this exact clip next season and then I see, well, I was totally wrong. But I feel Chelsea do not have that cohesion within their team, especially with the whole Enzo situation with the French players. I don't know how good the harmony would be in the squad, so I would put them at number 7. Then let's go to number 6, Newcastle United. Newcastle is so good offensively, but for some reason, defensively, they're not as astute. And I understand last season, the only reason they weren't as defensively good was because they had Pope out, they had Botman out, and obviously no Tonali as well. This season, they could be much, much better because Tonali is back very soon, I think August 28th or something. And they have Pope back, they have Botman back. This could be a different squad. But something tells me Howe is not the man to take them back to the Champions League. I don't think they make Champions League because I feel that the teams above them are going to do even better. So, having said that, let's get into the top 5, which I feel could be the Champions League spots. Number 5, Man United. It all depends on how the manager decides to set up, how Ten Hag decides to set up. Now, the only thing I want in this world right now is that somehow, magically, right, against all odds, against what I think, we go and win the Premier League with Ten Hag. Ten Hag is lifting the trophy with Bruno Fernandes and Garnacho's probably the top goal scorer. I would love this. Even Højlund, top goal scorer. I would love this. But do I see that happening? It's very unlikely. In fact, I would give it Leicester odds that we win the Premier League. But the one thing I would say is that regardless of how the manager wants to set up, I do see this one thing. He is not starting to trust Amad Diallo. I think there's more pressure from the board to select the right players. And because of that, I feel we will start clicking very soon. Very soon we will. Why not higher? Well, let's take it to team number 4. That is Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham have slyly had an amazing window and people have not even talked about it. They signed Archie Gray, who is a new talent from Leeds, for 40 million, and from what I've seen, he's been amazing for Leeds and his possession style exactly suits what Ant is trying to do. Then they have this young guy called Lucas Bergvall as well. Lucas Bergvall again looks very technically sound, and he could be a very good signing, especially if they use him. And probably the biggest signing that they have done for money and for impact, I feel, Dominic Solanke. He already scored I'm not too sure how many goals he scored last season, but I know it's definitely north of 16 goals in the league for Bournemouth. Now, if he gets a service that they're going to give at Spurs with all the players that they have, I think Solanke could be the difference between Tottenham finishing maybe in 7th or 8th to them finishing in 4th, which I do believe they will. As much as we do say Liverpool is an unknown quantity, one thing I've seen from the 2 games that I've seen of Liverpool, one was against us, United, and one was against Ipswich Town. I don't think they're going to be amazing on the eye, but they are clinical. Every chance they're getting, they are scoring. Against United, I remember they must have had maybe 4 chances throughout the whole game. Throughout the whole game, they had 4 chances outfield, and we had I don't even know, maybe 8, 9, 10 chances. Good chances I'm talking about. And guess what? They won 3-0 because they scored 3 of their 4. And even against Ipswich is pressing them high. But Liverpool had a few chances and they took every single chance. I know that Diaz did miss a very good chance, but generally they did take all their big chances. And this is what scares me about Liverpool. As much as they may not play perfectly or how we think Liverpool used to play, they're going to be effective. And that is what actually scares me. And that, I feel, is going to push them to that 3rd place. The top 2 is going to be exactly the same as last season. It's going to be Man City, who will win the league and complete, unfortunately, their 5-peat. And 2nd place will be Arsenal. Now, this again, I feel, just like last season, just like the season before, there won't be much in it. Maybe 3 points, maybe 2 points, maybe even 1 point, maybe it's just goal difference. But I feel Man City will just pip them to the title, just because regardless of what you say, City have that thing, that clinical edge which other teams are missing. And now I know that they might not have improved a lot. They might have just bought Savio, but City is City. A team who's won 4 Premier Leagues in a row, it's going to take a lot to beat them. A lot. Have Arsenal solved the biggest issue that they had, and that was the number 9. And no, they have not yet at least. If they do sign a striker, I would go as far as to say that they will win the league this season. But till they solve that issue, I feel City is going to keep winning. So unfortunately, I feel Man City win the league once again. Arsenal finish 2nd. And that is the Premier League standings. So now that we're done that, now let's go to the awards. First award is Premier League top scorer. This is going to surprise a lot of you guys, but I feel this season the top scorer, and he's a very young player and he scored a lot of goals before, it is Erling Haaland. Yeah, no surprise. Erling Haaland is going to win the top scorer award. Behind him, though, I feel is going to be Alexander Isak, who, well, Newcastle always score goals, and I feel Isak is going to get a good bunch of them as well. Now, the top assists, most assists in the Premier League, I feel is going to fall to Saka, or I would say Odegaard. It's going to be one of these two, depending on who is the primary creator for Arsenal this season, who are most of the goals going to go through. That, and I feel that could be Saka. As much as I feel Odegaard is an amazing player, I feel the goals are going to go through Saka. Whether that's goals or assists, I feel Saka is going to win the most assists. Now, having said all that, let's go to Premier League Young Player of the Year. And for Premier League Young Player of the Year, I just have a feeling it is going to be Savio. I watched a few games of Girona last season, especially it was because it was against Real Madrid. I watched them and Savio just stood out. Even for Brazil in the Copa America, whenever he came on, Savio came on, there was a difference. He is not only technical, but he's also direct in his play. And I feel that simple change, Savio, could be the difference between them winning the league and them not. That's how big I feel Savio can have an impact at Man City. Now, that's Premier League Young Player of the Year. Who do I think is going to be Premier League Player of the Year? This player I've already mentioned, and it's not Saka, it's actually Odegaard. Because I feel every time I've watched Arsenal play, all the actions, everything happens because of Odegaard. If Arsenal play well, it's probably because Odegaard played well. If Arsenal play bad, it's probably because Odegaard could not orchestrate as he normally does. And so I feel, because Arsenal are going to have another good season, this time, as much as the goals and the assists come from Saka, I feel the influence will come from Odegaard, and that could set Odegaard to win the Premier League Player of the Year. And this is what I think should be the Player of the Year. But I don't think the Premier League is going to award it to Odegaard because, he does not have that fancy name. And it's probably going to be somebody like Haaland or De Bruyne again. But I feel Odegaard should win it if he plays just like he played last season, just like he played the season before. Odegaard should probably win Player of the Year. Now, Premier League's best signings, I've already mentioned these two. It's going to be the Young Player of the Year, Savio, and Dominic Solanke. Solanke is going to score the same number of goals that he did. He's going to score the same number of goals that he did at Bournemouth. He's going to have a big impact at Spurs. People don't even realize it. Now, Premier League surprise club of the season would be Man United, I feel. Because many teams are discounting us. They feel that we're not at that level because we're not apparently signing the players that they feel are good enough. Because Zirkzee is not a good striker. I mean, De Ligt failed at Bayern, didn't he? And didn't Mazraoui fail at Bayern as well? All that talk. And also Ugarte, who might come in. People are not too sold on him. So I feel we are going to shock everybody because we are going to have a system. We are going to have players who can actually play ball. It does not matter too much about who the management system is and how the tactics are, because as important as they are, I feel the players are going to outshone everything that happens around them, and they are going to actually perform, I think, even better than fifth. They could perform better than fifth, and we would be the surprise team of the season. And the surprise signings, I feel, that people don't think are going to shine, Zirkzee and Neto. The impact these two will have, I think, will be evident by the end of the season. With Zirkzee, he's not going to score a lot of goals. I know he scored against Fulham. That's not why I'm saying it, by the way. He is generally an amazing technical player. He has the physique to succeed in the Premier League. He has the touch to succeed in the Premier League. And he's a service-first kind of person. He's not a finisher like Haaland, let's say. So I think he's going to succeed in the Premier League eventually. And Neto is also going to have an amazing impact, especially if you are servicing people like Palmer, like Nkunku, like potentially Osimhen. Come on, you're going to have a few assists, aren't you? I know his stats don't scream out yet from what he's done at Wolves, but he's going to have such a big impact. People aren't even ready for what Neto is going to do. And now that the Premier League is taken care of, that is the end of all the Premier League predictions. Now, simply put, let's get it to the Carabao Cup, FA Cup and the Champions League, and we can wrap it up. So firstly, the FA Cup winners, I feel, are going to be, and finally, after 5 years of a trophy drought, I feel Arsenal are going to finally do it. They're going to win it. They're going to win the FA Cup this season, I feel. I think Arteta will take one of the cups seriously, because I think if he does not win a trophy, I think he should be sacked technically, because football is a winner's game. So if you don't win a trophy for 5 years, I think you should get the sack regardless of how you're making the team play. Especially if you finish second for a third year in a row and you don't win a trophy, that's a bit too much. But I do think Arsenal will win the FA Cup this season. Now, Carabao Cup will go to Man City. No surprises. I don't think I have to explain myself. Man City is Man City. So that is that. The Champions League is not going to be won by a Spanish team. So I don't think the Galacticos of Mbappe, Bellingham, Vinny, Rodrigo, they're not going to win it. Because I personally feel they're going to take one season to... I think they're going to take one season to adjust, and only after that will they actually click. So I think this is not Madrid's year. Barcelona is on the building trajectory. They are not quite there. So it's not going to be them too. Arsenal, I don't think they have it. They have what it takes to win it. Man City is going to be between Man City and the eventual winners. But I don't think City is going to win it this year. In fact, I think the winners of the Champions League are going to be Bayern Munich because of the investment that they've done. Because I don't think Kompany is going to finish the season, by the way. I'm thinking it's going to be another manager. It could even be Nagelsmann, or it could be just an interim manager. Maybe Ralf Rangnick comes in. But I think Kompany is not going to complete the season. But with all the players that they have Musiala, they have Kane, they have Olise, they have Pavlovic, Kimmich, Sane, Coman. These are some amazing attacking players, and I struggle to see how they don't win the Champions League, especially because the attack is going to be free-flowing. With all these attackers, you cannot expect to flop. So I think they're going to do exceptionally well. They're going to win the Champions League. Now, guys, that is my predictions for this season. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get most of these wrong. That's what's going to be fun at the end of the season, when we come back to this, when we see how wrong I was or how right I was. And put down in your comments what you guys think are going to be the Premier League winners, the relegation teams, the teams who are going to finish in the Champions League, young player of the season, player of the season, surprises, and Champions League winners, FA Cup winners, Carabao Cup winners, all that we discussed today. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and see you all in the next one, and stay strong, guys.